Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am Yusrol, and welcome once again to the Tribble Timewarp. It is the 22nd of October, and after last time, with all the dinosaurs and excitement, this is going to be a bit more of a numbers episode. For starters, welcome to the Fleet Spire holding. This is capped out, fully functional. Cryptic's Tribbles have been very busy and taking advantage of the fact that on Tribble, projects turn around much faster than they do otherwise. So as you can see, basically everything is unlocked and available to be shown. We'll come to those in a moment, plenty of shinies to have a look at, but to begin with, we're going to head back to the Dyson Rep track. So, first point is that I have hit tier 1 on Dyson Joint Command. Now, normally you would expect the submit battle report mission to get considerably more expensive at each tier. This is what it's done with all the previous reputations. On this occasion it hasn't. It's still 10 marks, 2,000 creds and 1,000 expertise, which, thank you Cryptic, to be perfectly frank, because I have gone through I don't know how much hard cash buying warp coils, seismic stabilizers and Lord knows what else for reputation before. It's nice to have this kept consistent and relatively cheap. Maybe Cryptic have decided that they don't quite need such an energy credit sink in the game. Who knows? Who cares? I dare say we'll find out. Incidentally, the other Voth mission, likewise, 1 Joint Command Commendation, and 2,500 rep, 340 ore. Unfortunately, these are still proving rather awkward to get hold of. Storming the Spire is crashing the client when you attempt to load it in at the moment, and the Voth Dyson Sphere dailies still don't seem to be rewarding these commendations either, which is a pain in the neck. So, on to gear. Dyson Heavy Combat Armor Mark 12. This becomes available at Tier 1. As you can see, 99.6 baseline resist. Energy resist gets a bit of a boost, 119.5. You get even more resistances when you get frontal damage and you're crouched down. Bit of a perception hike, why not, given that the Voth are rather fond of cloaking devices, and some knockback resistance is handy to have, I suppose. Voth medics, I believe, use high-density beam rifles and are quite fond of knocking you back. What do the set bonuses do? I have no idea, because at the moment I can't get my hands on this armour. The 250 Dyson Sphere marks are simple enough. The 9,000 dilithium is exceptional value for money, considering that this is a Mark 12 piece of kit. Likewise, 40,000 energy credits, well, let's face it, for most of us that is pretty much spare change. The problem are these things, the Voth cybernetic implants. These are basically the same in function as the Borg cybernetic implants. You can get them from a couple of missions. They are also a very rare drop from the equipment requisitions that you get when you turn in a rep grind mission. Unfortunately, they are staggeringly rare at the moment. The city ship event is not in game. The ground assault, likewise, not in game. The only way to get these is the staggeringly rare drop from the equipment requisitions. Bear in mind that I have popped about 30 of these boxes so far. You can see the results here from the tier 0 boxes. I have had 1 implant. I would estimate a drop chance, therefore, of approximately 3%, ranging between 1% and 5%. Pseudo-random generators are pseudo-random after all. There is a great deal of uncertainty on those numbers. It's also awkward because storming the Spire, which you'd think would be a good source of those on Elite, nope. That is currently crashing the client whenever you attempt to load it. Something's gotten broken there. Awkward. However, going back to the numbers, there you go for the Mark 12 heavy armor. Just for reference, here's the Mark 11 Mako suit. So it trades off some physical and kinetic, but gains a lot of energy regen, or other energy resistance. Drops the shield regen, drops the maximum hit points, so swings and roundabouts to a certain extent. Certainly this is going to do better against the Voth until the Spec Ops start beating you senseless and the dinosaurs start trying to eat your face, at which point you will probably find that the Mako is a better idea. The other tier 1 piece of kit is the Proton Particle Stabilizer. This, I think, is going to be fairly attractive to most escort and tactical cruiser captains. 3 weapon power, 3 engine power, and a little bit of a boost to the electroplasma system for power transfers. Also, extra proton weapon damage. Now, this is unique, and we don't yet know where the proton weapons are going to be coming from. We know there's one in the set, the Experimental Proton Weapon Mark 12, and I believe there are options for others. Let's go back and quickly recheck. Yes, here we are, Protonic Polaron Space Weapons Mark 12. So how much of a boost that's going to be remains to be seen. It may very well turn out to be incidental, for want of a better term. Still, damage is damage. I'm not knocking it too hard. Right, final numbers on the Tier 0 requisitions. 22 shield refrequencers, 11 protonic ground weapons, and 1 implant. I have no idea how typical those numbers are. I would encourage you to keep a note of what you're getting yourself, because let's face it, the more data we have, the better for Cryptic, particularly if the random number generator is coming up a little bit streaky. Tier 1 requisitions should in theory give us something a bit better. There is also the Engineering Energy Signature Dampener. So let's just pop some shinies and see what we get. Protonic Compression, that's pretty much 0. And again. Ooh, that's not too shabby. Another minigun. Come on, drop a console. I want to see what these do. Oh, implant. Implant. Handy, handy, handy. Okay, so... Come on, give me a console. Here's irony for you. Third implant. Yay! Guys... Fourth? Like I say, random number generator may be turning up a little streaky, or maybe I just got not quite lucky enough. It would have been nice, but hopefully I can grind up the rest and get some armour to show you the looks of for a future episode. We shall see. Unfortunately, that means I still have no clue whatsoever as to what the Energy Signature Dampening Console is meant to do. That will have to wait. What I can show you, however, are the new shinies available from the Fleet area. Interesting feature here, I suppose, is that the stairs and the safety rates here pop up and down, so hours and hours of amusement for your security staff. Here, stairs go up, stairs go down, stairs go up, stairs go down, stairs go up. Yeah, and at some point, no doubt, a Marine would slap me if I carried on doing that. Bank, exchange and mail are on the inner ring once you activate them. On the outer ring, we have the shinies, which, let's face it, is what we're here to see. So, ground gear, Mark 11 and 12 ultra rare engineering, science and tactical kits. These are in paired sets. As far as I can tell, squad leader, medic and enemy neutralization are set 2. Bunker fab, physicist and operative are set 1. They will come up on the differing rep tracks. So these are the stock kits that we're all happy and familiar with. Needless to say, they have been amped up somewhat. So engineering bunker fab now gets a shield recharge on top of the usual generator, turret and dome options. Enemy neutralization likewise adds, I believe it's quantum mortar fabrication. And medic gets a free biofilter sweep. They all have picked up an extra Mark II ability. One little graphical bug, of course, is in the icon. It refers to Mark 10 there when it should be Mark 11 and Mark 12. All in all, very, very shiny. Of perhaps more interest are the new tactical consoles. Now, these come in 2 flavours: critical hit chance, the vulnerability locator, and critical damage, the critical severity option. So, vulnerability exploiter, 8% critical severity and extra 25.5% beam, cannon, torpedo and mine options. Now, this I suspect was just to stop Cryptic having to produce about 24 different variations to cover all the possible weapon types, because if we do a quick comparison, a Mark 11 blue phaser relay gives us 26.2 compared to the 25.5 you're getting here. So, if you're running dilithium grade consoles, nothing special, then these are undoubtedly an upgrade, especially the crit chance options. So potentially I could add 1.6, 3.2, 6.4% crit chance to, well, baseline 2.5 for all characters, of course, plus stats. But you can start getting a fairly respectable little crit chance going there, which is an extra 50% damage if you get lucky. That more than makes up for the fact that you are trading off base damage, because, of course, 25.5% beam weapon damage is distinctly less than 26.2% phaser damage. Will we see the comeback of the Rainbow Boat? I am not so sure, because it's still a case of if you want a reliable weapon proc, you have to load multiple weapons of the same type. So you're still going to get laughed at if you go for a Rainbow Boat, and if you've already got fleet grade weapon specific consoles, I'm less sure that these are an advantage. On the bright side, 50,000 fleet creds and 8,500 dilithium. Well, the 50,000 credits might be awkward, but the dilithium's not too expensive. The crit damage consoles I am less sold on. Crit severity is all very well, but if your crit chance keeps coming up snake eyes, then it really doesn't matter one iota how high your severity is. Personally, I would go for the locator consoles, which is probably why they only have 20% the bonus of the crit severity. I'd still go for them, mind you. There are also some new warp cores. Now, the principal difference here is the plasma integration on the matter-antimatter cores and the Thoron infusion on the singularity cores. Rather confusingly, this is the same buff. It is a 10% increase to base resistance to power levels, so things like weapon drain and power siphon are going to be less effective, and 66% to base regeneration, which, rather confusing as far as I can tell, is essentially things like EPS and power transfer. Why Cryptic saw fit to give it two different names when it's the same effect, I have no clue whatsoever. It makes it a little bit confusing and it strikes me as unnecessary. But then I have been complaining for a while now that we have got 3 versions of the same provision for fleets, and again this is utterly redundant. Just call it fleet provisioning and have done with it. It's only one item and it stops people blowing fleet credits on the same, or rather the wrong thing for the wrong project. However, going back to fleet warp cores, beyond that it's very much what you'd expect from the warp cores we had in the dilithium mine. Multiple boosts to efficiency, a warp factor of 10, and a capacitor just to get things back on the go if you do get a little too close to the Tholians. 65,000 fleet credits, 25,500 dilithium for the elite. If memory serves, that is the same as the elites from the dilithium mine. Yeah, basically if you want a free EPS console and a kind of cheap version of Nadion version, this is more or less the way to go. Other than that, head back to the dilithium mine, see what's available there and just weigh up the two. Again, very much swings and roundabouts. So, Obelisk Swarmers, these are the new fighter pets. Now there is rumoured to be an Obelisk Carrier in development, but at the moment I can't find it. So, basic blue version. Cheap as chips, 25,000 creds, 9,500 dilithium if you've been turning in your surplus duty officers. Not that great, it has to be said. Transphasic torpedo, anti-proton beam array, beam overload 1, nothing too special there. Advanced Swarmers add in a turret and an upgrade to beam overload 2. It's the elite ones that are really special, however, because these upgrade to overload 3 for a fairly decent little punch, and more to the point, get attack pattern beta 1. So if you're running a cruiser carrier and you've been loading attack pattern beta, you now have the option of loading attack pattern delta and letting your obelisk swarmers deliver the attack pattern beta instead. It remains to be seen how smart the AI is going to be about this. Of course, you may well find that if it's dumb and all three fighters pop the pattern at the same time and they don't rotate it round sensibly, then you're going to find yourself popping beta anyway just to keep the threat generation going. Of course, the cruiser commands will alleviate that once it comes in, but we shall see. It'll certainly be nice for cruiser captains who are short on tactical slots to be able to get round the problem of running both attack patterns without compromising anything else. Right, that pretty much clears it up for the major shinies. The only other thing of note are the new duty officers. These are Renegade Voth. They all have a new trait, Free Thinker. For those of you who aren't too familiar with the background on the Voth, they are essentially a theocracy. There is a doctrine that says they were the first life forms in the Delta Quadrant, and by virtue of that they are superior to everybody else. Of course, there is also the distant origin theory, which basically says that the Voth left Earth about 70,000–80,000 years ago, and then the mammals came along afterwards. So these Renegade Voth have decided, you know what, we kind of like the shaved apes, and we're going to work for them instead. So you have the options to recruit the lizards to your crew. Prices are pretty much standard for the quality types. That is, if memory serves, online with the miners you can pick up at the dilithium mine. They all have the Free Thinker trait, and interestingly, you get various other options as well. I note that they all seem to have the same set of traits. So, baseline traits on the green are Congenial, Free Thinker, Honourable, Stubborn and Tactful. Going up to blue doesn't seem to add anything. Going up to Epic doesn't seem to add anything either, so it's purely a quality matter. However, you do get a variety of science procs if you are so inclined. Finally, we have the Tailor services. Nothing special here, well, except for this, the Dyson Sphere Researcher outfit. Now, little more dilithium and we might be able to get that actually. Can I? No, blast, fine. We'll take a look at that in the future Tribble Timewarp, I think. So, that's the interior of the sphere and the shinies. The outside of the sphere is, it has to be said, fairly nondescript at the moment. Here we are. So, the Voth Spire. Those of you who played Storming the Spire before it went belly up will recognise the map's basic layout. That's either a very large star or we're far too close to it for comfort, given the sheer size of the thing. Looking elsewhere, you begin to realise just how huge the sphere is. I'm not sure if this is going to be replaced or it's actually kind of appropriate, because if you're looking at the star, really everything here ought to be whited out, and then the horizon ought to be curving up as you look towards it. Bear in mind that we are inside a sphere, not on the outside of it as we are with Earth. And yes, I'm aware that the planet is technically an oblate spheroid, not a perfect sphere. So, not a lot to be seen or done here, to be perfectly frank. It's very much a jumping off point for transwarp options. Contact traffic control, you can see that I have Embassy, Dilithium Mine, Fleet Starbase and Sector Space. Sadly, the other option, which I was hoping I'd be able to show you, given that it comes in with the Voth Rep, is the transwarp to the Allied Space Zone. This is a time saver, basically. Interestingly, it's not even on the passive abilities here, which is interesting. Maybe that needs to be added. But it allows you to jump straight to the Voth Space Zone without having to go through the Tau Dewa block. On the other hand, since most people can transwarp to Tau Dewa directly, I believe it's the Tier 1 rep reward, you have to point is, I suppose it saves about 3 minutes in the loading screen. In any event, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the Tribble Timewarp for the 22nd of October. And when I've got some more to show you, that I shall do. Until then, farewell.